Hello, and welcome back to the Netball Unlocked podcast. Now, netball clubs may be in their off-season, but of course netball itself is not. With the international window well and truly open, national teams across the globe are all quietly in the lab as they build towards next year's majors, beginning with next year's Commonwealth Games. And I know we say this every time, but it is shaping up to be, I think, one of the most exciting competitions yet, and not least with the wider netball landscape continue to shifting with some significant consequences. Today, we're going to get into all of that, and I'm delighted to say that our guest for this episode is more than well versed with the top tiers of netball, from starring on the court as a two-time world champion and Commonwealth Games gold medalist to being one of our sport's greatest ambassadors off the court. And she's now popping up as a specialist coach in SSN and at England Netball. I'm pleased to say that Sharni Layton is here with us. Sharni, how are you going?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just love being back over in the UK. I don't know, I feel like maybe I had a past life here. It's just every time, or ever since I've started working with England, it just feels like a part of it feels like home to me.
That's so nice to hear that you have a home away from home in the UK. How's it been treating you so far?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think I had quite a full-on year this year, professionally and also personally as well. And when there's always so much going on, and I knew that I was coming away with England, but I just had so much to squeeze in before I got on that plane, and I really, really pushed it to the very last minute. Like, I think my nieces came over to say goodbye to me. That, oh my gosh, that was so sad. I actually had, sorry, I'm going off topic here, but because they were so sad that I was leaving for a longer period of time, I got their names tattooed on my arms.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard to
Gosh.
see, but so I already had the birds, so Kookaburra, and then they obviously laugh a lot, and Isla is hilarious. She's like the funniest girl you'll ever meet. And then the black cockatoo is Aaliyah's favourite bird as well, so I got her name under there. But point being, they came over to give me a hug because they knew I was going to the airport, and in typical Sharni fashion, I'm still just like chucking stuff in my suitcase, going for 3.5 months, like, what am I going to pack? And I just knew I had to get myself on the plane and then I'd be fine. And I allowed myself a week to just settle into UK life before getting into England camp, and I'm so glad I did. My friend Megs took me to the Burleigh 5-star horse trials, which was just incredible. It was a childhood dream of mine. I grew up watching equestrian, wanting to ride in the Olympics, so I was literally just like a kid at a candy store running around like crazy, just embarrassing Megs and everyone else that I met because I was just so happy to be there. But I think it really helped with the jet lag as well because I was so excited. I just pushed straight through it and didn't even notice. So weather's still quite good as well, which is nice. I've had some sunny days and it's not dark at 3 p.m. So the UK's been treating me very well.
That's amazing. I love the tattoos. Do you mind the pain of those?
I'm a bit of a sicko, actually. I probably shouldn't admit it, but those who love tattoos will understand. I love the pain. It's very therapeutic. It's feels just like a bit of a vibration through your skin, and it just means that that's all you focus on for that period of time. And I only got my first tattoo probably 2019, I think, was when I got the black cockatoo. I understand why it's an addiction because you just want more, and then you don't want them to be like, I didn't want my black cockatoo to get lonely, so I had to get a kookaburra to keep it company. I'm not crazy at all, but and then when you're doing it for purpose, like on my calf here, I've got a tall ship, like that's the wrong way around. I'll step around this way, but a tall ship. And it's got
Wow.
Johnny and Ellen, who's my grandma and grandpa, because he used to sail tall ships. And when you do it for meaning and purpose, it's really wholesome.
Yeah, of course. And I guess there'll be more to come, I imagine. It sounds
Yes,
like
many
with
more to
the way you
come.
feel about those.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sharni, you mentioned a full-on year. I think that's certainly one way of putting it. When I was like trying to think of what we could talk about and I wasn't sure on ideas, the first thing on the list was early August, SSN Grand Final. It felt like a blockbuster, like just all the storylines shaping up to be a fantastic one. And you're, of course, for listeners that may not know, you're a defence coach with the Melbourne Vixens. And you're going into a grand final with a team that's on the longest win streak ever in the league history. Tell me a little bit about that occasion, the game, and then obviously the win.
Oh my gosh, it was a bit of a wild ride, really, because I'd only had started with England in the January. I actually missed a lot of pre-season, so I didn't get back until February. So they were quite into the swing of things already by then. And then, we obviously didn't have the start to the season that we wanted. I think we were 5-1, and the majority of the league had completely written us off, saying that we weren't going to make finals. But the thing with the Vixens, and I obviously can't give too much away, but they're just a team that has so much belief. They've got a really beautiful culture, belief in themselves, but also belief in each other. And I think they just respected Simone so much. So whilst it was really difficult for her to take that step and step down as head coach, especially after being at the helm and after being in 5 grand finals, like just absolutely incredible. Well, like obviously at that stage she'd only been in 4, but when she did step down, I think what it showed the girls, because they weren't playing their best at that point in time. And I don't know if the clip came out over here, but she was in the press conference after, and I felt like once she announced she wasn't coaching anymore, just all this pressure was off her, and she just became the beautiful coach and person that she was again. But she also showed her personality in her press conferences, which she didn't do too much before then. And someone said, what does the team need to do for the rest of the season? And she said, oh, we just need to go to the pub. And typical Aussie saying, and it's not all about going and getting drunk, but it's just about sitting around with mates and having a chat. And that's, well, we're like you Brits, like that's what you do. You go to the pub, you have a chat just about stuff that isn't about work or isn't about netball. And it just broke whatever the girls were worried about and why they weren't performing the best within themselves. And I think because they then had a purpose bigger than themselves, which was wanting to play well for Simone in her last season, it just galvanized them. And it wasn't that they weren't getting along. It was just that, sometimes we get so worried or so I guess worried about our own game and our own performances, then we take the pressure off ourselves and we look outwards. That's when you actually play your best netball. And that's what I definitely found with myself as well. So to see them almost just like Simone, Di, all the girls, just see all this pressure melt off them and be the underdog for the rest of the season, it was a really great place for them to come from. I think they're so used to being at the top of the ladder for the majority of the season, which is a credit to the club and the coaches for having them there for that period of time. But for them to actually, be at that kind of climbing back up, trying to get back into the top 4, winning against Adelaide Thunderbirds, who we hadn't won against they were our bogey team, especially. We hadn't beaten them since round 1 last season. So to be able to beat them in Adelaide when, if you go to Adelaide, it's an absolute cauldron of crazy supporter fans, which we love, but you just don't want to play against them. So the fact that we were able to prove themselves against them and then to come up against Swifts and be 10 down at 3/4 time and find that belief. And if you haven't watched that talk that Simone gave them at 3/4 time, just about going out and giving your all, like that's one of the best speeches from a coach that I've ever heard. And then they just managed to win that game as well to then go into the grand final. And you're right, it was a blockbuster. It was a blockbuster from coming up against Fever, who obviously, like you said, had the longest winning streak. But the way that we were, we had it at Rod Laver Arena. The way that the league promoted it was really good. It was really exciting. There was a lot of hype about it. It sold out really early. And it was a vibe. Like, it was an absolute vibe. And I've never heard a netball game that loud for that period of time. Like, I think the loudest game I played in was probably the World. Oh, I didn't play in it, but the World Cup in 2015, the grand final. That was massive. But then also in my 2016 grand final with the Swifts against Firebirds, that was ridiculously loud as well. They got the decibel reading back, and it was louder than One Direction. So
Oh, no
that's
way.
how we know. Yeah, that's how you know how good netball fans are. But it was incredible. It was a vibe. It was so loud for the whole time. And yeah, for Vixens to get that win in the end. But I knew that if we were up against Fever, we would be fine. I think I knew that if Fever were able to push 4 or 5 out, then I thought we were going to be in trouble. So when you got a team like Fever that can be so seamless and have so much confidence to let that ball go, you need to stamp that confidence out of them from the start. And I think that we managed to do that. And the confidence of our shooters in midcourt was just incredible to let our ball go, which we struggled with during the year. But then also to keep doubting their minds for a full 4 quarters is something that every team has struggled with. So to pull it out like that, and yeah, the celebrations were great. And I was so happy for them. I was so happy for Simone, so happy for Di, the club. Yeah, it was just an incredible couple of days.
Shani, the challenge of Janelle Fowler, I feel like, you know, she's a 4-time Super Netball MVP. She is such a force, and your history as a goalkeeper and as a defense coach, without giving too much away, of course, but you know, what are you saying to your defenders when they come against her?
It's all about, you're not going to get the ball, right? Like, and that's okay. So you just can't beat yourself up about it. I think my dad said to me when I was really young, like I would have been 10 or something, and he's like, "Shani, you're a defender, yeah?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "And your team gets every second centre pass?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he's like, "So if you get one intercept, you've won them the game." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "And if they don't win the game, then they've lost the game." And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's not me." And, you know, whilst that might be a funny mindset to have around not blaming your teammates, but just taking the pressure off yourself. And so from then on in, my mindset was always, well, we get every second centre pass, and all I need to get is one intercept for the game. And then after I get that one intercept, I'd be free because I knew that I'd done my job for the day. And then that gave me the confidence just to be a free defender and still look after my own. But I was a bit of a roaming player to be able to get those intercepts that I loved. Like that was the fun and excitement for me. So, you know, Janelle, and even like your Romeldas, like they're the toughest players to play against because you can't leave them alone. You've got to be deceptive around where you're standing so that hopefully the line of the ball is off so that you can get it. But chances are maybe only 1 or 2 of those balls are going to be off. But the fact is, like, you have to get those 1 or 2 balls. There's no if, buts or maybes. And so you cannot drop your head. You have to contest every ball and you cannot stop until the end. And I think that's what Rudy did so well this year, whether it was against Grace and the Swifts, Romelda with Thunderbirds, like, and then Janelle, like, you know, she had all 3 of them in the finals series, and I saw her confidence build and build. And her biggest moments were in the last quarter of every game. She was able to get that one intercept when the other team was coming back, that one tip, that one thing that unraveled that shooter. And that's what the game's about. It's about wearing them down for the full 3 quarters. So when the opportunity arises in the 4th quarter, when players are tired, the placement's off, like that's your time to shine as a defender. But then the hardest bit is not throwing that ball away because they're so full of adrenaline and they're so excited that they've got the ball. It's so easy to just whack it out of court, or, you know, rather than pulling it in 2 hands, you accidentally tap it to the other team or whatever. So to be able to get the tips like she did and then keep that composure, and that's like, you know, that's not even looking at Jo. Like that, for me, the grand final was probably the best game Jo Weston's had. Like she always plays great, like she's consistently great, but she was exceptional in our final series, especially in that grand final. So for me, to see that combination of Jo and Rudy against the Janelles and just wear down, not drop their head, still contest to every ball, like not worry if they got put out of play. They adjusted really well. And I think those are the things that are really hard to do in the heat of the moment. And I think those are the things that probably got on top of Fever. And then it starts to unravel. But the fact that it was in a grand final in front of 15,000 people probably helped a little bit that they were at home. And the Vixens crowd was very loud and proud, without a doubt. But yeah, the fact that they were able to stay so calm and composed until those very last moments it is the hardest thing to do in sport, to stay in the moment, especially during those times.
Yeah, I think what you're painting out there is like the concentration of a defender is actually massive in all of that.
Yeah.
Like you have to, like you said, we'd be ready for the moment, but that whole other time, those like moments where you're not quite going to get there, but you are still, it's all about concentrating, not
You
letting the
can't drop your
pressure.
head. You got to stay in it. You got to constantly move your positioning. Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, it is like just as draining mentally, if not more, than it is physically. Because at least when you play other goalers, that you can have a fly at the ball and it's a bit of fun, and you're doing switches with your other defender and you're moving. It's quite an active game, and the game goes really fast. When you're standing there and you're jumping like 60 or 70 times or 80 or 100 times in a game, straight up, miss the ball, straight up, miss the ball. It can get boring. It can get these, it can be really hard to stay motivated to keep going when you know that she's just bigger and stronger than you. So when that ball's in the right spot, there's literally nothing you can do. So it is just that like ability to go, all right, we've got an hour here. Let's just buckle down and not drop our head.
There's a quote that I found from you about your role with the Vixens. I think this is what you said to Tamsin at Sky Sports. They're already the best at what they do. It's not about coaching them. It's about making them feel good about themselves and giving them the belief so that their pure skills can come to form each and every game. And there's something in that I kind of was like, it's like empowering them. It's that showing them that belief. How much would you say your own experiences as a player shape the kind of coach that you are?
Oh, 100%. I think the thing as a player is no matter how good you are, you always want to be better. And so even when I was at my best, I've been quite open that when I was at my best, I had depression because it was never enough. So even though I was playing my very best netball, I still wasn't in the starting 7 for the Australian team. And so for me, I was like, well, then clearly I'm not the best. So then how do I get better and better and better? And like you need that mindset as an athlete to improve, that it's a very dangerous place to get caught up in that constant striving. And I just wish that, or like when I did feel my best playing, I was playing under Rob Wright, and he just always told me how good I was. He just always just said, Sharni Layton, you're the best defender in the world. Go and get it. Like, this is what you need to do today. Go and get it. And because of how much confidence he put in me, I was then able to play my best netball. And I think when I left Swifts and went to Collingwood, I underestimated the impact I knew that he had a big impact on me, and I knew that I was playing how I was because of him. But I was arrogant in the fact that I thought that I could play like that without him. And when I didn't have that support network of someone encouraging me and telling me that I was doing a good job, you shouldn't need it. You would imagine you shouldn't need that when you're an experienced athlete, but you do, because and you don't, like, I love that you love the fans and you love your family, and they're like, oh my God, you had a great game today. But that's not the same as someone who knows their stuff going, you had a great game today. You were technically sound, you were tactically sound, you were great for your team, you were a super leader. All of those things, those are the things that lift you up. Whereas the other stuff, like, it feels nice and it's fluffy, but it's not your engine. So for me, I'm like, God, I wish. And I said to Emily Mannix 2 years ago when I started with the Vixens, I just said, I wish that I enjoyed netball more. I took it so seriously. And then I went to AFLW, and I loved AFLW because I knew what it meant to lose something then, because I'd obviously retired from netball, and I knew what it was to enjoy sport again. And I realized that I didn't do that enough in netball. And I said to her, God, I wish I enjoyed my netball more. And I think like that's one thing that the Vixens do so well, is that they do like absolutely enjoy their netball, but then also, like, as I mentioned, when I see them doubt themselves, I'm like, I'm sorry, Joe Weston, you are the best goal defense in the world. Like, do not ask me a question, because you actually already know what you need to do. So go and do it. And then, well, what do you need to do? This. Well, exactly. I would have said the same thing. So off you go. Rudy, what do you need to do? Bang, bang, bang. Great. So you already know what you need to do. So why are you asking me? Go out and do it. So, like, whilst I can give advice or my thoughts and opinions around how I might play on a certain player or combination, it's really up to them and their skill sets about what's going to work best for them, and initiating them to have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, I'm not out there on court. Simone and Di aren't out there on court. So they're needing to problem solve in the moment. And it's about empowering them to be able to do that. And I wish so Swifts, I felt empowered, but in the other teams I was in, I wish that someone was there empowering me. And then I probably would have, like, you're not this big confident, even though that's what I portrayed. Like, underneath, you're always in self-doubt, thinking that you should or could be better. I guess that's why I love that style, and I want others to know how good they are, because in Australia, we've got tall poppy syndrome, and people love to bring people down. And so we feel like we need to bring ourselves down to be around other people. And it's like, no, you're great. Be great. I want you to like know how great you are because you've worked bloody hard to get there. It's not like you were just born out of the womb and all of a sudden you're great. It's like your hard work and effort and dedication and training and timing and food and sleep and sacrifices has got to where you are. So enjoy that and just own how good you are.
Yeah, I think what you said at the start about there being this anxiety, that anxiety to be the best and to push yourself is what drives you to be better than everybody else. But there comes a point, I think, and you are at the very, very top of your sport, to even you need to be told sometimes that you are good, because or that, you know, you're valuable, and people respect what you do. It's really interesting because I don't know if in women's sports that we do that enough
Mm.
generally as well. And I think in a team sport, the dynamics also, especially in netball, like quite complex when you've got people contributing different things by definition, right? It's netball. You're not all doing the same job, but you still, I don't know. It's just really, it's really interesting. The dynamics I think netball presents for that, and telling somebody that they are, you know, the best player in the world, that
Absolutely.
they are the best player in the world. It's like,
Best
yeah.
player in the world. Like, you're amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And just getting around each other and pumping each other up. And that just creates such a nice, like, team vibe as well, and being able to tell each other that. And yeah, anyway, I love it. And I think, yeah, across the board, not only in like women's sport, but just women's corporate, women's anything. Um, like, yes, I think we're getting better at it, but I think we can still be better at it rather than it being competitive or whatever, like building each other up, helping each other out. And I always love using Laura Geitz as an example because she's like the epitome, right? She's like epic goalkeeper, awesome Australian captain. Like, it just happened that we came through the pathway at the same time, right? So it could easily be like, oh, bloody Laura's playing in front of me again. But I'm like, she's the Australian captain and she's freaking awesome. And she gets like, she could dig deep when it mattered to make sure that her team won in any grand final or any World Cup. And so it's just about going, okay, she's better than me and that's okay. Like, it's not personal. Like, if I wanna be better, I just have to go and work it myself, and if that's not enough, then it's just not enough. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not gonna sit back and go, "You're crap," because I wanna be in your position. I'm gonna be like, "No, you're freaking awesome," and hopefully the fact that I'm pushing myself so hard helps you push yourself hard too, and I think that's a healthier way and a healthier, team environment to be in.
Yeah, and I think that's what, to me, makes netball one of the most fascinating sports that there is that you can't do someone else's job, but also at the same time, someone might be doing around at the same time that's doing that job slightly better than you. But it's like,
Totally, yeah, and I was
but you're
probably
in a
like,
team environment.
yeah, I was probably like I had Bianca Chatfield as a mentor as I was coming through, and she had the same thing. Like, she came through the Liz Ellis era. So it's just like, what are you going to do? Like, you know, when you've got this amazing defender that's an incredible leader, it's just like, then what else can your role be? What other role can you play for the team? Because it's not just the seven on court. And if one of them goes down, A, you need to be ready to go. But not only that, as you know, when you're traveling for weeks on end or months on end as a team, it's also about the vibe and keeping everyone happy, and, like, I played a lot of that role as well, around making it fun. So, yeah, like, what else can you do in that team environment?
And I guess now, Sharni, you're going from one high performance environment to another in, you've just said 3.5 months on the road with England Netball. You were announced as part of the lineup in last season, I think 2024-25. What was it like crossing sides from being a diamond to joining the Roses?
I think, like, I love it, just to start off with, but, for me, it just came, you know, it really did come out of nowhere, or, like, I wasn't like, whilst I was working with the Vixens, and I've been working at schools a lot, back in Australia, I just I didn't think coaching was gonna be my journey, and so when I heard from Jess and, became a part of the program in September as a bit of a trial, I couldn't believe how obsessed I was, like, with the coaching team, with all the girls, with the program. She did ask me straight away, she said, you know, "How would you feel about working with England?" And I was just like, "Well, for me," and I think it's no secret, like, I just want the sport to be better. Like, I want it to be on the world stage, and I want it to keep growing and climbing, and if we need that, then we need all countries to be better. So the fact that, um, you know, you've even asked me to come and be a part of an international program, like, that's like a privilege, right? Like that's something that I don't take lightly. And I love throwing myself in the deep end. So I was like, yep, sure, let's go, let's see. And if I can contribute, I want to contribute. It's a sport that I've grown up with. It's a sport that I love, and it's a sport that I'm very fortunate, but it just comes so naturally to me now because I've done it for so long. But yeah, when I got into camp in Perth, like, oh my gosh, they were just so fun, and they just have such a great culture and such a great vibe. And I just like the laughs are awesome, but then, they switch on and work hard when they need to. But it was just this really beautiful balance of both. But not only that, I was really worried. I was like, oh my God, I'm an Aussie coming into English territory. Like, not how am I going to go coming in? Like, how are they actually going to take me coming in? And I had to meet them at the Perth airport, and I had to get on the team bus with them, and they were just like, Sharni. And I was like, oh my God, they were just so welcoming. Like, I felt at home with them straight away. And then after, watching bits and pieces, I was like, yeah, I reckon I can be quite helpful here. I can see things that, with some little tweaks or whatever, defensively, mainly, especially, that we can work on. And when I got home from that first tour, so I got, like, it was September in Australia. The girls went on to New Zealand, but I stayed in Oz, and it was the happiest I've been in years. Like the support that I got from Jess and the whole team. It was the first time that I have felt valued, loved, like, and I'd used my brain properly again, like I missed being in that high performance environment, and I missed sitting on the bench, and like I love high pressure, like high pressure's for me. So um I just felt at home, and there was just something that clicked in my brain that I was like, this is where I'm meant to be coaching. This is where I'm meant to be. And the relationship that I just started to build with the girls in that short amount of time, like, was, invaluable, and just beautiful relationships, but like quite deep, quite fast, not kind of like fake or surfacey. And then obviously I came back over in July, and I felt a lot more comfortable because when I came in September, didn't know the girls, didn't really know the coaches or the staff or anyone. Like, I just had so much to wrap my head around, and to come back in January and just feel like to be able to hit the ground running, like, cool, I know what we're on to now. I know how we're moving, what's going on. And to just kind of fit straight in. And then I was lucky enough to also help coach with the England A team as well, because they were training and playing the different countries during that time as well. So I was getting double the coaching experience as well. And yeah, it was, yeah, once again, like, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I love the team. I love the program. Like Jess and Anna, obviously doing it with Joe Harton as well, who I'd played against my whole career, has been incredible. But I love learning from them, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that I have a long way to go on my coaching journey. But I get to learn from two of the best, and they've been in the game for so long, and I just respect them so highly. And to sit next to them on the bench and listen to how their crazy netball brains can just see everything at once, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the defense circle for now, but I can't wait for the day that I can actually see as much as what you ladies can.
So they're seeing netball probably different to everybody else. What they're watching
Just
something
so
totally different,
much. They can just see everything. Like, you could ask them any question at any point in time, and Jess will just give you the answer. And I was just like, what? Like, how do you even? And then I've got, I do have to remind myself how long, they've been coaching for. Like, Jess was coaching at World Youth Cup that I played in 2009. So I'm like, okay, just drop the ego, Sharni. You're not meant to know this stuff. Like, you're learning as you go, even around the communication and style and all the rest of it. Yeah, there's just, so much that I need to learn, but I love being thrown in the deep end. I love that they allow me to be myself. I can get quite cornered in Australia into being a certain way, or not being too loud, or how it is. But the fact that they just embrace all of me, for me, and there's not even netball, there's just not a lot of places in life that I have been that go, we want all of Sharni. 'Cause I'm quite a lot, let's face it. And so because they're so accepting of me, and because they love having me, then I just have completely, fully invested myself in them, because that's just how I work.
And we should say for listeners that we actually had Razia Kwashi on the podcast, and she spoke about, I asked her about your influence, and she spoke very highly of you, and about a bit about how you said forming those connections quickly but deeply, and that was certainly the sense that she gave. Sharni, what is the gap, would you say, between NSL defenders and players in SSN that are then in Australia, New Zealand? As a coach, like, what can you see that the gaps kind of are?
Oh, good question. I think we just have a different, I wouldn't say it's gaps as such, but we just have a different style over here to how the SSN players play. So I think one of our strengths is obviously our teamwork and how we play together. But I think not just defensively, like the gap would be in regards to the Super League here and SSN back home, is just that, like, they just get to do it full time. Like, they don't have to, I think from what I was hearing, when the girls are still working, and I grew up in an era in Australia that I had to work and train as well, and I know how hard that is. I used to work full time as a solar panel saleswoman. I had to work in a doggy daycare. I was a waitress. I was a removalist. Like, the first 10 years of my career, I had to work full time as well as play. So it's hard and it's tiring, and you can't get the recovery that you need. It's really hard to get the right foods in because, whilst you might have a good breakfast and a good dinner, like those snacks throughout the day that are just so important, like you might forget to pack them or you don't pack the right ones. And to be able to, as an elite athlete, you have to fuel your body all day, every day. The recovery factor, so rather than getting to sleep, you're getting up at 5 a.m. for work the next day. So you just can't perform at your best. Like, I'm not saying like at your best if you're trying to juggle all things in life. I think it's still important that you have multiple things in life, but when you're literally getting up at 5 a.m. and not getting home till 10 o'clock at night and trying to squeeze everything else in and trying to find time for gym or whatever, whereas super netballers can now sleep in, or they get up early and they're done by midday. They've got their weight sessions together, they've got their core works during the day. So they're just better supported to be able to just focus on being an athlete. So I think the more England sways that way and continues, and I know it just takes time, like it took time in Australia as well, but yeah, I think that's the one thing that would help grow the
Yep.
league that little bit quicker.
It makes sense. I think that, when your job is entirely netball, like,
Mm,
then you can expect the very best. But I think
yeah,
with the NSL, we reckon we're about 10 years off SSN in
yeah.
terms of timing. But I think then it puts into perspective the performances we have still from the England team and
Oh,
South
absolutely.
Africa and Jamaica off the back
Yeah.
of that, like quite how hard the girls are
Oh,
hustling to be.
definitely. Yeah, and it is, it's just about it's almost the ongoing fatigue, and whether or not it might be injuries or it might be chronic fatigue or it might be, but it's like the other things that slip in on the side that then make it really hard to then perform at your best all the time. And then, like, you might see glimpses of it, but if you're like, oh, why were they really good last week and they're a little bit off today? And you're like, because they have a million things going on in their life at once and they're doing their best to be able to juggle that and still put their netball first. But I remember, so yes, I was working full time when I was playing with the Adelaide Thunderbirds from 2010 to 2014, and we won 2 premierships in that time. And then the following year, I moved to the New South Wales Swifts, and that was the first proper contract that I got, that I was getting paid full time as a netballer. And that was the year that my netball took off. Probably 2015, my netball took off. But it was because in 2014, I could literally just focus on gym, netball, food, recovery. Like, I just gave full 12 months of doing that. And then 2015, I came out firing, and I was getting to more balls. Why? Because I was fitter, faster, stronger, I could recover quicker. All of those things that I just couldn't have done as I was working full time, working with dogs all day, because I was knackered by the time I'd get to game day. You know what I mean? So it's like natural energy rather than trying to smash a few Red Bulls before you run out on court.
Yeah. And no, it makes sense. And to just go back, the array of jobs that you have or had,
Mm.
it's quite
I know.
amazing.
Yeah,
A
well, I
remo-
have a lot of
a-
life experience. I'm a very good networker. People used to say, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a full-time networker, actually." But because I went to university, I got picked up in my first Melbourne team when I was 16, and I was still at school at the time. And then I wanted to go to uni, but I'm intelligent, but I have ADHD, which would have been very helpful to know back then, but obviously didn't know it back then. So it just took me a long time to pick up science and maths concepts. Like I could learn it, but it would have taken me like studying as much as what I was doing for netball training to be able to pick it up. So when I went to university, I couldn't keep up with the workload because I was like getting up at 5 a.m. on the train by 6 a.m. in at uni for my first lecture at 8. I'd finish uni at 4, go to netball training. I'd train from 6 till 8:30, drive home an hour, get home at whatever time that was, like 10 o'clock, have dinner, and I was doing that 5 days a week. And I was like, I just can't. I failed 3 out of 4 of my subjects, and I was playing crap netball because I was just exhausted 24/7. And then after that, I just realised that, unfortunately for me, I didn't have the time to do both, and so I gave up my education for netball. Netball was my education, which it paid me well in the end, so it's not too bad. But yeah, so that's why I just literally had to find whatever, and then I couldn't get a full-time job because like I had to leave because then training started shifting earlier once it became ANZ Championship. So trainings would start at 2 or 3 instead of 6 o'clock at night. But then full-time jobs wouldn't let you leave. So then I couldn't actually have a normal job. So I had to get shift work to then work around my trainings. Yeah, so that's why I've had such an array of different, because it wasn't about what I wanted to do. It was just about what job was going to fit in with netball and help pay the rent whilst I'm on $10,000 a year.
it's quite insane, actually.
Ah,
Like what was being demanded of you on a netball court now, like for your team and then for your international team, and then to
yeah.
also be neurodivergent as well. Can I ask you, when you got that diagnosis, was that quite late on in your life?
Yeah, yeah, it was only 4 years ago, I think. 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, because neurodivergent is great for really great for netballers because the situation changes every second, right? So you're like ball player, positioning, blah blah blah. So your brain's like love it, like my brain was loving life. Like I can see 20 things at once. I'm like crazy woman, superwoman on the netball court. And then I quit netball. I went to AFLW, which didn't pay me much money, so I had to get like a big girl job again. And I got job as head of netball at a school, which meant that I had to do all the admin. And I just used to sit at the computer and I would look at an Excel spreadsheet and I would go, "Oh my God, like, do I put days at the top and times down the side, or do I put days down the side and times up the top?" And then I couldn't figure out how to do a spreadsheet. And like the chick next to me, who's like clearly neurotypical and just smashing life, was like, like with all those spreadsheets and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, but it was like, I'm very time efficient and I like getting stuff done very, very quickly. And I hate wasting time because there's too much to do in life to waste time. So I want to go down the horse paddock and play with my ponies, or I want to walk the dog, or I want to do stuff that I want to do. So I want to get my work done quickly. And it would like piss me off that I just could not do a spreadsheet. And so I was seeing my psychiatrist and I was like, Ranjit, I'm like, mate, I cannot do a spreadsheet. And I'd been seeing him for like 6 or 7 years at this stage. And he goes, Sharni, I've got something to tell you. I was like, what? He's like, you're neurodivergent. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then, yeah, so now I'm on a new journey. But yeah, I think it was hard to wrap my head around it first, not because I was like worried about it or not that I was ashamed of it, but it's more just like, what could life have been if I had have been aware of it, I guess, and the struggles
Mm.
that I had in fitting into teams because I was always running late or I was always losing things or I was always on another planet or whatever. Like I'd always been pigeonholed as like this airhead or whatever. Like I'd like like funny, like to people who were doing it, but to me it was like a form of bullying. Like you're like, okay, well, I don't really like having the piss taken out of me 24/7, but you just laugh it off because you can't be bothered dealing with it, if that makes sense. So, and it's like, and people think you do it on purpose. Like people are like, oh, you're late again. And I'm like, yeah, because I love being late, mate. Like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't find my goddamn phone and we're leaving this hotel forever and I didn't want to leave my phone here. And like, do you know what I mean? So the hardest thing when you're neurodivergent is when people just think that like you just I'm not gonna use the word stupid, but that's how they make you feel at times. Like, "Well, why didn't you just do it?" And you're like, because I know, like, I've always known my brain hasn't worked like other people's, but I just didn't know why. So it was like a relief, but then it was also like this frustration of like, "Oh gosh, that's quite annoying too." And then it like made me frustrated at the world because obviously neurotypicals built it. So then it's very hard for neurodivergence to fit into it. But then also neurodivergence couldn't build a world because it would just be all over the place. So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, but where's our place? I can tell you where our place is, on a coaching bench. We fit in very well there. So I've managed to find my space at the end. But yeah, I think it's definitely been a journey. But it's so different for everyone. You know, the scale of how much it affects you in your day-to-day life and attention span, but I'm a lot kinder to myself now because of it, definitely. I used to beat myself up a lot if I couldn't get work done or if I was struggling to clean the house or if I let lost stuff or whatever, whereas now, yeah, I'm a lot more kind to myself around that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where I'll go next with you is like how, because in many ways like neurodivergence is kind of, because it's not typical, there are kind of superpowers that you get out of it. And but there is a, but almost like that you go back and there's like a grieving process for the person that if they had known then what they know now, how
Yeah.
things might have been different and how you could have told people that life is
Yeah.
a bit different as well. And that, yeah, and that it's not a
Mm.
choice. You don't choose to be that way. It's the way that you are and you
100%. I think that's
have
the
to live
biggest
with it.
thing. Like, you just don't choose to be that way. And so people, and you get a bit of impermanence as well. So, like, because I travel a lot for work, um, you forget to call people that aren't around you, and those people can get like quite offended. But like, it's not that you don't love them, but it's just that you always are where you are. And so there's this real lack of understanding around. So I have actually made a lot more effort this trip. That's why I literally got the girls' names tattooed on my arm so I wouldn't forget to call them. Like, literally. Not even, not even like
They're
I
here
have.
and here.
They're kids, they miss their auntie, I have to be a good auntie, I'm gonna tattoo their names on my arm so I call them every day, like, because that's how forgetful I can be when it comes to stuff like that, and yeah, I think that understanding of, like, that for me, like, like, I wanted to be a vet, like, that's what I love animals, that's what I wanted to do, and I think if I had have known, then I would have been able to study in the right way, like, whereas I just thought I was stupid, so that's why I was like, "I'm never gonna be a vet, I'm dumb." Do you know what I mean? So, and then that's which, like, you'll find a lot of people who find out later in life, like, that's the story that we used to tell ourselves, and it's really hard to then catch yourself and get out of that habit as well. Like, no, actually, I'm really smart. I just think differently, which is, like you said, it is a strength in ways, but you do reflect on how it has affected you previously.
Yeah, of course. And how people have shaped you off the basis of how
Yeah.
they think you are and how that gets to you as well. And you said the coaching bench is a great place to be for being neurodivergent. But you also
Yes.
said earlier that it wasn't a path that you thought you were going to go down. But it seems, Charlie, you're going very much down it.
I
Is
know.
that where you see your future? Can we expect more from you as a coach?
Yeah, well, yeah. Now, well, I'm intrigued to see where it takes me. I think I'm open to the path and the journey. And I think the universe always directs you in the way that you're meant to go. So yeah, I think for me, I moved 13 times in 10 years in my playing career. And when I moved to Melbourne, I really wanted to settle down and I wanted to stay near my family. And I thought I've done enough traveling in life. I'm fine to just, and I know that with coaching comes travel because like there's only one job in every state, right? Or like, look at me now. Now I'm not even in the same country, I'm overseas. So, um, yeah, so I think for me, the thought of coaching and the thought of having to move again was too overwhelming to even consider that as an option. And then if you look at how much work a coach does and how much they get paid, like there's no correlation there. Like if you look at a CEO and what they get paid, like it probably matches up to their workload, whereas a head coach's workload compared to their pay. And I'm quite a smart worker in this day and age. And I'm just like, I don't actually know if I want to work that hard and not get paid as much as what I'm getting paid as whether it's a media personality, netball clinics, having my own business, all that kind of thing. So those were all the things that were kind of stopping me from like pursuing this journey. And then, as I said, when I then, started with England and then I was just a part of the team and I was on the bench, that I just had this overwhelming feeling of like, okay, this is definitely where I'm meant to be. So then last year I went on to coach one of the Victorian National League teams in Australia, and loved it. And I was like, okay, like, now it is. So now how can I support myself as a coach as I kind of navigate my way through this journey? I'm not saying that I want to be a head coach just yet because I think coaching's like 10% of a head coach role with the amount of people management and strategy and structure and blah, 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 and everything that you need to be able to sort through. And I think I will probably get to the stage where I'm ready for that. But the fact that I'm so early on in my career, and I think I said earlier in the podcast, like I'm not oblivious to where I am at on my coaching journey and how much I have to learn about like the amount of different personalities. And I think it's one thing to be in a team and manage a team or be a part of that, trying to bond people together, but to actually be the head coach, obviously it's a very different role that you play in regards to, is it friendship, mentoring? Like, how do you be the nice guy and the bad guy all at once? Or is it good cop, bad cop with your assistant coach? Or, do you know what I mean? So, and for me, like how to be the most authentic version of myself as a coach, which I think in Australia, I felt like I didn't feel like I could be an authentic version of myself. Whereas, having come and worked with England, I feel like I can be a really authentic version and I like how I am as a coach. I love that I'm loud. I love that I encourage the girls. I love that it's but I haven't created that. That's their vibe that I'm now a part of, which I love. And so I've now been exposed to an environment that I love, that I would love to recreate if I ever got the opportunity to. But I'm definitely not in any hurry whatsoever to climb that ladder.
I mean, when you put it like that and sort of explain that actually maybe a head coach is only about 10% coaching, I think that's maybe something that folks might not understand actually about the nature of that role, and that perhaps netball still has an incredibly long way to go until that role is just that. And there are like general manager, like when you look at basketball setups, I think like in the WNBA or the NBA even, the head coach just coaches and then there are people that make other decisions around them. But you have to, I don't know if our sport is necessarily there, that it's not just a multifaceted role. But that's so exciting to know that you're going to be around on the coaching scene for a little longer.
Yeah. Hopefully, anyway. That's the thing with coaching too. You don't know, do you?
Yes. You're only as good as your last game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Which
so
for you was a grand final win. So I think.
Well, there we go. Yeah, put it on the resume and away we go.
Sean, I have to ask you about SSN because our listeners, predominantly from the UK, and they're of NSL is their league, but we see over there that there's a lot of changes happening, and most notably the arrival of the Silver Ferns that have now been allowed in to join, and they've come straight in and taken up places at several Super Netball teams. Where do you think that puts SSN now? And for players that want to come from NSL into SSN, what does that path look like now? Do you think it's going to be even harder than perhaps it was before, given we've now I guess SSN has let in the others from the other side of the ditch in?
Yeah, I think, 100% it's going to be even harder than it was before. I think the fact that, minimizing the numbers to 10, which I don't mind on game day, but training wise obviously makes it like extremely difficult. And then it also hinders development as well because, you've got training partners that are coming in and training with the teams, but they don't get paid as like, I think a training partner, like, don't quote me on this because I'm probably completely wrong, but I think it's like $4,000 or $5,000, which is like £2,500, not even. And you're like, meant to come in and train with the team. Like, you just can't demand that of someone who's not getting remunerated. So I think like to be able to make it go back to 12, whether you have 10 that you can select for game day, but then at least like you got more numbers at training, you're actually getting the development through those girls, like from wherever it may be. So whether they're Australian, English, Kiwi, South African, whatever. I love it. I'm like, we want to have the best netball league in the world. If you want the best netball league in the world, you need the best players in the world. And if we want to promote netball beyond netballing eyes, then this is what we need. So even like Whoopi Goldberg's now putting Super Netball on her or Women's Sports Network, which is going to be going out to 60 different countries and over 90 million households that netball wasn't currently in. So like the opportunity for netball over the next few years is massive, and we want and need the best product for that. So I think, there's been talk of like maybe another 2 teams coming into Super Netball, which I think would be like super exciting because we need the season to be longer, and obviously more teams helps that season be longer. But then I think in regards to development, that's where like, the Super League, but even Australia in particular, like we need to have a better competition underneath that's like Aussies only, so that we are just developing like our Australians too, because like we're going to be lacking development coming through in the next decade in Australia if they keep filling up those gaps with, which is fine to fill those gaps with internationals, I think, once again, because we want the best product. But then how do we then develop this next layer when our state league just is it's so far behind, it's not funny. Like the gap is way too big. And then you got this reserves that they're playing at the moment, which is meant to be like the gap filler. But then with reserves, it only goes for a number of weeks. And these girls are generally training with, like, as a training partner with their teams. Then they're playing for reserves. Then they're playing for their state league teams. Then they're also working on studying full time. So I don't think it's possible to get that development at that level just by condensing it. But then it comes down to money, doesn't it? Because then to be able to have a full league that runs underneath the Super Netball is where that kind of money comes in. So, it's just about how do we continue, like leave the top one. We want the best in the world. Like that's what we need for netball as a sport. And that's what's going to keep the corporate dollars coming in and keeping the broadcast rights going up, blah, blah, blah. But what we need to do is make sure that the leagues that we're putting in around and underneath are just as strong so that those, they're ready to just go. But the NSL is that for me now, because it would go NSL. I haven't watched too much of the ANZ Premiership, if I'm being honest, but like kind of your ANZ Prem or your NSL and then into Super Netball. So, you'll see like obviously your Gabby Sinclair, who was here, who's now gone back to Sunshine Coast Lightning, your Gabby Coffey, who came, and Emily Andrews as well. So you're getting your Australians coming over here now because this is now the feeder to Super Netball, which is really exciting, I think, for England Netball and for the NSL. Hopefully it can get to the stage where it might be a rival competition for Super Netball, but I think at this point in time, it's really exciting that internationals are looking to come here. But as we look to come here, whether it be Aussies, South Africans, Kiwis, whatever, like, what are they then going to do to be able to feel, same as Australia, with that underneath parts that you still have, and you're still developing all your English girls as well. And that's where the tricky part comes in around funding and supporting that. So, yeah, lots to do, but I think the exciting thing is it can be done. Like, it's all really tangible. It's exciting times for netball, I think, at the moment. It's the most excited I've been in netball probably in over a decade, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of jigsaw pieces together, but I think that you can't deny the numbers out of SSN. For me, that's one of the big things that with the audience numbers, as you said, for that Melbourne final. Actually, netball's position in Australia as a league and how it's followed is really promising, I think, because we often land our big majors at the same time as something else. So I really felt for the Diamonds when the Netball World Cup was on, the same as the Women's Football World Cup was on, and you lose that. So if Super Netball can be more of a presence as in a league in all of itself, it's very exciting. But I think the shift in the world order, if the Ferns are longer term, because we only know that that's for the season coming up, not if they are permitted to play in SSN, what that does for your Jamaicas, for your Englands, for South Africas is very interesting. Super
100%.
compelling.
It's a win-win for me. Like, it's a win-win. Like, we get the best of the best playing in the best competition in the world, and then they're taking those training and high performance behaviours and everything that they're learning at their clubs back to their own countries, and which is upskilling their own countries, which is just awesome.
And Sharni, if I gave you a check and I said, okay, what else would you do to netball right now to help it grow, get bigger, muscle in on other sports, what would you do with it?
Oh, good question. I think you'd definitely do like a tour of America, like without a doubt. Like you'd open for the WNBA games just to be like, here's just like a different form of female sport. Even like, NBA games. Why not open for NBA games? Like just seeing a different sport. Like I think the one thing that netball, and I don't know how to do it, but it just, to me, it never has translated as well as on TV is what it does live. Like when you hear like those bodies hit against each other, when you see the speed of that ball, when you see how quickly the decisions that they have to make in such a short amount of time, like it's such a skillful sport and you have to perform like you can, like, there's just no room for error either. So I think doing something like we need more eyeballs in other countries to be able to do that, but then also to have the money, like I was saying, to have multiple leagues, I think would definitely help, like the amount of depth that we're coming in, but also like the Premier League, right? Like you pay like 3 or 4 layers down, I think. So, or if not more. So imagine
More, yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? So imagine if you did that in netball, if you had like your Super League players and then also that league underneath that's developing into the Super League players, like, and they're all getting paid and supported just to be amazing athletes, hopefully still studying or doing something on the side, but not having to do those things. Like it's an actual choice. Like imagine where the sport would be and then the competition between different countries that would bring. But I've also like always been a big fan of like at the end of every series, like just or like between all the countries, like just getting the top 2 teams like from every league and like having a world league and having them kind of play against each other would be really cool as well.
I love your WNBA NBA idea. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. It's just because we need if we could get in over there in that market, then obviously that's where a lot of the money and stuff is. So does anyone know Richard Branson? I've heard his daughters play netball, so I was like, how do we get him involved?
Yeah, it feels like a financial game. I think the other
Yeah.
thing that we're looking at in Australia is Brisbane 2032, and if there can't be some sort of Olympic thing going on, but we wait and see on that one because I think that would be another opportunity to open the door. But that is
that would be
that's
another
a
big avenue as well. But yeah, and then just like stadium sizes, I think. So like we're selling out of like a lot of our stadiums in Australia now, which is incredible. But then like the NBA ones, like they build them up to get so many in, whereas like you kind of have your 8 or 10,000 seater stadiums in Australia. And that's it. Or you got 17,000. Rod Laver was 15, I think, 17,000. But that World Cup in Sydney in 2015, like we sold out 17,500. Like imagine if it was 30,000. Like, so it's so hard when there's almost like a cap on our sport to how many people you can like physically get there to watch, when if there were more seats then they probably would. Or like, would you do it a bit basketball-y where in a grand final they play like the best of 5 or something as well? So I don't know. I'm very open to all those kind of ideas.
yeah. I think it's got to grow somehow, hasn't it?
Yeah.
This sport of ours.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And it's just about getting the players' characters and stuff out there too. Like so like there was a few of us in that 2015 World Cup who got well known because Samsung did it out on us. So they did a profile on me. Oh, like so Laura Geitz was sponsored by them. And then after that they got myself, Caitlin Bassett, Paige Hadley, as well, and they just did a profile on all of us with these sick ads. Like they were so cool. And like after that all of our profiles just went boom because we were on ads on national TV so that the general public then knew who we were. So it's just about being able to push yourself personally as a brand to get involved in things like that, and then people will then, like, it can be scary to put yourself out there, but then once you do that and you're more of a, like a Helen Housby and you're a household name, people go to watch Helen, or people go to watch Sharni, or people go to watch for me, or whatever that is. Like, that is how, like, people attach to players. And so the more that you can brand the players so that people want to be a part of their lives, like, that's what also will help just continue to build those.
Yeah, and as someone, Shani, like yourself, that has been very open and honest, and you've definitely opened up conversations in our sport about depression, and we had a great chat there about neurodivergence, which I think is another thing that we're only starting to lift the lid on in sports. What would you say to players at the moment about opening up themselves, to make those communities, those connections, to help grow netball? I guess it's quite tricky, right? Because not everyone wants to or needs to, but I feel like there generally needs to be a bit of a thrust somewhere from some of our players to kind of make that step forward.
There has to be a thrust from current players to have the confidence to put themselves out there, to be able to put more eyeballs on screens. And I think people look at me and they're like, oh, she's so confident, maybe even a bit of an attention seeker. I'm an introvert. Right? Like, so I have trained myself how to network, how to be relatable, how to connect conversations. But I grew up as an introvert. At 15, I was put into a room I was playing with the Melbourne Kestrels, and they put me in a room of adults and were like, these are our sponsors, you need to go schmooze them. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, just ask them, like, do their kids play netball or whatever? And so then I just learned how to be really personable with people. And through that, I learned how to be a conversationist. And then through that, I then got confident enough to be able to use my voice and my brand, or to be able to become a brand and put myself out there. But I think, like, it's so scary, especially with social media in this day and age. But or the advice that I would give to players is do what you're passionate about and whatever your values are. So, if you love kids, then make sure that you're kind of getting involved with schools, or you can help do things, in that way. If you're animals, then, go be an animal, like Helen Housby's an RSPCA ambassador. Great. Go do some stuff with the RSPCA and build your brand that way. So do what is authentic to you. People are going to be able, especially in this day and age, it's 2025, people are going to be able to see through you if you're not being authentic to your brand, and no one wants to see you go, Gales, coffee for everyone. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, I do not function in the morning without my coffee. I freaking love it. And this is the best thing that I've had since I've been in the UK. Delicious. Right? Like, bang, done. So, like, what are you passionate about? Because if you're passionate about it, you don't have to sell it because you automatically love it, if that makes sense. So, and then, talk to people at games. Like, what do you love about netball? What are the issues that you're having? Are those some Facebook lives that I could be doing to be able to connect with my community and be able to help and give back? And when you flip it to giving back and paying it forward, it takes all the pressure off yourself. And then you're not worried about you or what people are thinking or saying about you. It's just about, I'm in a privileged position that I get to play for my country or my club, and how can I give back to kids who are wanting to do the same thing? So that's always kind of been my mindset. And that was like drilled into me through my parents. Like, I'm fortunate that way that I've got some really great parents. But yeah, it's just, when you do that, then putting yourself out there is not going to be as scary. And there's always going to be a hater. But if you wouldn't take advice from them, then don't take hate from them. Like, you just got to block it out.
What a fantastic piece of advice. I like that. But I think it's true. I think in netball we are missing. Well, not missing. Well, we are missing. I think when you look at, I think Alona Mara is an excellent example of somebody that also, what she's doing for women's rugby right now.
Yes.
Netball
oh my gosh.
needs something
incredible.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And also, I think the lesson from her that she speaks very openly about as well is, this didn't just happen. I've been at this since Tokyo 2020 Olympics. So, you're building it, being in the Olympics is helpful, but it's
like,
time,
I started
it's
working
consistency.
on radio in 2010. Like, when I was in Adelaide, I walked into a radio studio, Triple M, which is like a sports station. It's a bit blokey, so that like suits my personality. But I was just like, two of the boys who do the drive home, and I was like, get me on the afternoon shift. And they were like, what? And I was like, yep, because I was like, if I'm on radio, I'm like, you have no females in this station. Give me 5 minutes a week. And like, if people know who I am, then they'll know what netball is and they'll want to come in. And they're like, fine, you've got 5 minutes a week. You have to write up 5 different topics and present the topics to us like 10 minutes before you go on air. We'll pick one. Then you got 5 minutes to talk about that topic and then you're out. And I didn't get paid, but it was like, I've been doing media for 15 years now. So I'm like, people, like, they don't see that hard work that you put into being a personality or having a brand or whatever. And then all of a sudden it looks like it's happened overnight. But as we know, that's never usually the case.
Wow, how lucky are we on Netball Unlocked to have had you, Sharni, a media, a brand, a legend of of netball on this podcast. We've covered so much ground; it's been unreal.
So much ground. Neurodivergence. You're welcome.
No, but it's your openness and authenticity. It does really connect with people, and we are very lucky to have you. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks, Chloe.
And I will say good luck with the international window. Hope it goes well.
I know. Go Roses.